everybody. It's the Plant-Based Business Hour. I'm Elysabeth Alfano. So happy to have you with me. So usually on this show, I speak with the CEOs, visionaries, leaders who are making the world a safer place by providing us with a safer and more secure food supply. That, without a doubt, is plant-based foods, fermented proteins, and cellular agriculture. I am so thrilled today to bring on my guest. Oh my gosh, they are truly changing the world as we know it. Fengru Lin joins me from Singapore, and she is the co-founder of TurtleTree Labs. Thank you for being with me.
Thanks, Elizabeth, for having me.
I just want to dive right into it because what you are doing is so incredibly fascinating. So you are the first company in the world to be able to make milk. And by that, I mean milk from animals and also milk from humans. Of course, there's plant-based milk. Okay, cha-ching, we got that one all set. But we're talking about milk from animals and from humans through cellular agriculture. For everyone listening, how the heck do you do that?
My name's Chad, and this is my 15-year-old daughter, Bethany. And if you watch to the end of this video, I'm going to show you.
Well, the process that we have sort of patented is really the same process that happens inside a mammal or in a human breast, but we're just taking it out of the mammal. So what we do is we're able to extract live cells from freshly expressed milk. So many people might not know, but within 3 hours of freshly expressed milk, there are cells that we can extract directly from milk itself. Subsequently, we would multiply these cells to a large number, and then we will put them in a bioreactor, like a giant steel tank, where in the right environment and in the lactation media that we have patented in-house, the cells would act as little cell factories, converting the lactation media into fresh milk. And the end product will have no cells in them. It would just be the output of the milk.
Okay, so I'm going to reveal my ignorance here, and I'm going to say, well, gosh, when you say it like that, it doesn't sound that hard. But of course, I know that you are sort of reinventing how the world makes milk, but how long did it take you to discover that process?
So the discovery process was really interesting. Maybe I can share a little bit about how I got to get to know milk a lot better. A few years ago, I was learning how to make cheese here in Asia. So to learn how to make good cheese, you need a good access to fresh raw milk. And being here in Singapore, we are an island country. There are no farms here. I had to go out to Indonesia. I had to go to Thailand to look for alternative sources or different sources of milk. But of course, I was soon exposed to challenges like contract farming, like antibiotics and hormones that are being pumped into the cows. As a result, the milk quality is always not that good. And I know good milk because I've even been to Vermont to learn how to make cheese. So I gave up that whole cheese hobby. And back then, I was still working for Google. That was when I met my co-founder, Max. And he was at Google sharing about different technologies, AI, machine learning, and also cell-based meats. So companies he shared about were Memphis Meats and Blue Nalu, who are using cells to make meat and seafood. So after the talk, I went to him and asked him if there's similar methods to make milk. Back then, there were no other companies doing it. So we spent a few months talking to scientists, pulling in some scientist friends, doing a lot of research around the area. So early half of last year, we made some breakthroughs. We filed our patents and we started the company. And now we have 20 full-time scientists and engineers across 6 different teams and just really accelerating our growth.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's very interesting. We'll get into it in just a second. I think it's very interesting that you started a path down for human milk as well as animal milk, even though you first started with wanting to make cheese. So you wanted a good source of animal milk, but now you're looking at larger scale issues that plague the globe. even beyond your own difficulty making cheese, which is an important thing in and of itself, but not quite the global scale that you're addressing now. Before we talk about how you decided to shift a little bit to human milk, maybe you can tell me why you say on your website, and I think I know, but also for my listeners, why you call it clean milk.
It was about the third week into Kathy's weight loss battle where things really started to go downhill. She was...
Sure. Well, we all know that traditional cattle farming is not sustainable, especially as we introduce the next 3 billion people onto the planet. Some reports mention that it's also responsible for up to 37% of global methane emissions. So we do need to find alternative methods to continue feeding the billions of people coming onto this planet.
Yes, 100%. And you already have so many people in third world countries who aren't getting the basic nutrition that they need. And then to have a food supply system that is so inefficient, we talk about it a lot on this show, but we grow grains that have fiber and protein. Do we give those grains to people? No, we give them to animals. And then we have to give them land and water and time, of course, as they, of course, need it. And that means we have to cut down more trees, which we should be keeping because we need to pull carbon from the air, to grow more grains to still give to animals and not people. So it's this incredibly wasteful, particularly things like land and water and time, very wasteful, and doesn't begin to address the needs when you go from 7.6 billion people on the planet to 9.8 billion people on the planet, according to the UN. So you're almost looking at a third jump in the population. So you just can't be wasteful with water. And dairy, very much like meat, is very wasteful in water. But also, not just are these systems inefficient, as you mentioned before, hormones, antibiotics, stuff you don't want to be giving to an infant in particular, I would think. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And not to mention, there are a lot of reports talking about water contaminants or contaminants that are flowing into the drinking water of the cattle up in North America, and also same challenges in Australia, New Zealand. So things like PFAS, which is from the Teflon coating material that has sink underwater and has some cancer effects. So these are things that because our method of creating milk bypasses the need to access groundwater, it can be free of contaminants directly.
So what does your milk need to grow? So again, just to go over this for folks. So let's say for human milk or animal milk, you're getting the expressed milk within the first 3 hours as it comes out of the human or animal. And then in the right conditions, it can grow at what rate and what does it need to grow?
Hi, I'm Chad. This is my daughter Bethany. She's 15 years old. And I'm going to show you in this video how she built an...
So the cells would multiply over the course of 3 to 4 weeks to a large enough number. And the cells would then need certain growth factors that they need to be able to grow. So it's similar things like insulin, vitamins, minerals. And these are things that our team has been able to synthesize in-house, driving down the cost. Previously, a lot of these components are pharma-grade products, so they are pretty expensive. But since we have been able to synthesize them in-house, we dramatically drove down the cost.
Wow, that's amazing, because as I understand it, I've had Lou Cooperhouse of Blue Nalu on this show, and he was explaining that one of the costs really was the expensive media it would take for the cells to be able to grow. But you're saying you've been able to synthesize that in-house.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
yep,
so
that's right.
That's its own discovery process in and of itself. I mean, that's almost a separate business, if you will.
It is. This is why very early on we recognized that within TurtleTree, we needed to sort of break down our teams into 6 different teams. 3 are science focused and 3 are business focused, so that we're able to run things in parallel. We have a molecular biology team just focused on the growth factors. We have a cell biology team just focused on the cells. So when there are certain milestones to be met, all the teams would converge at these milestones.
Yes, wow, so very exciting and so well organized. So when do you think we might see something like this at market? And are you having any regulatory problems? I'll talk about the human milk first.
Sure. So some of the let me dive into why we are first focused on human milk. When we look at the bovine milk market, it's a commodity. At $2 a gallon, it's something that would take a longer period of time before a biotech startup or biotech business can drive the cost down to that pricing. So very early on, using the same technology, there are certain types of milk that we can access even at today's price point that we can sell to the market, and it's already on parity with market pricing. So that would be certain components in human milk. So human milk is really special. There are things like bioactive proteins, things like complex sugars. These can be used as ingredients for current infant nutrition to bridge that gap between infant nutrition and human milk. We don't want to discourage mothers from breastfeeding at all. Breast is always best, but current infant nutrition does have a gap that they would like to fill. So we were talking to 4 of the 5 largest infant nutrition companies, and they would like access to some of these ingredients that they can use to upgrade their current infant nutrition. And we are in talks with them. We expect to sign some of the first contracts as early as even next year. And following that, we will set up our manufacturing facilities to support the skill that a lot of these infant nutrition companies need.
And what is that nutrition gap? I'm not sure I'm following you 100%. So if the babies are breastfeeding, now this would be in a country where they can, but let's say in the third world, I might understand why maybe babies and mothers or both aren't getting enough nutrition. This I would understand. But what is the nutrition gap in, let's say, Singapore? Is there one?
You can't lose weight as you get older, right? No, that is wrong. Look at Lisa. Yeah, I'm Lisa.
Well, even regular infant nutrition today from the big brands, if you think about it, it's made up of bovine powder, vegetable extracts, and lots of different vitamins and minerals. But in human milk, there are things like bioactive proteins, things like human lactoferrin that can help with the baby's development, things like the complex sugars that can help with the baby's brain growth, gut development. And these are areas that the infant nutrition companies are starting to take up. For example, in the market, there are perhaps 3 or 4 HMOs that are available in infant nutrition, but in human milk, there is a plethora of 200 of them. So if they're able to access more of these human milk oligosaccharides, it can really help to supplement the brain development and gut health of babies.
Okay, and this type of product that would help to supplement nutrition for babies, this would be a product that is still a milk, or it would be additives to other products on the market?
So we don't expect to go to market on our own. So we will be partnering with the major infant nutrition companies, providing them these ingredients or these technologies to make those ingredients to upgrade their current offerings.
Yeah, that's just wonderful. And I'll say that the infant nutrition market is about 45 billion globally. Nothing really compared to the 716 billion global dairy market, which you're also going to take over, but quite a market to disrupt, that infant nutrition market. And I also predict, it's one of my predictions for 2021, that you're going to see a lot more emphasis on plant-based baby foods, as there's a lot of scientific information coming out about how really for that brain to grow and be, in the best development state that it can be in, you really want a lot of the things that you might think of for a baby. So carrots and peas and all these kind of things. So it's very interesting that you're working in this infant nutrition market. So you say that you're not going to go to market on your own, and that you're working with other infant nutrition companies as they might want these as supplements or to help some of their products. And are you going to license that technology? How are you going to work with them?
So some of the discussions includes licensing. Others includes working with their contract manufacturers to manufacture using our technology. Because they recognize that we're a startup, and they have the access, they have current relationships with people they are used to working with current CDMOs that they're used to working with. So they're open to us working with those CDMOs to help them manufacture for the scale that they would require.
If you run ads online, I can get you customers 52% cheaper and scale your ads another 20 to 300.
The reason I ask about licensing is because, and maybe it's just an area that I don't know anything about, but when I think usually of a plant-based item going to market, they get a co-manufacturer and they retain all of the information themselves and they just go to market with this co-manufacturer. But here you're sort of licensing it. I'm sure I'm butchering this, so just everyone hold your comments until we figure this out. You're licensing it like software. I think it's ingenious. Maybe this is standard practice, and I'm still learning so much about cellular agriculture, so perhaps this is standard.
No, the reason why we want, so we kind of broken down our company into two main horizons. For the ingredients part, where we want to focus on the bioactive proteins and the complex sugars, we will be working with contract manufacturers to manufacture out these products, and we will license. We will work with them to produce those and sell them as final ingredients to the infant nutrition companies. As for Horizon 2, where the fluid milk market, where we're able to come out with a fluid glass of milk, that is where we will license out the technology to the Fonterras, the Muellers of the world. So instead of working with farmers, they will use our technology to source milk. So one company that I really look up to is not from the dairy industry, it's from the tech industry. It's actually ARM Semiconductors. They were they were seen as the R&D hub of the entire industry. They work with Samsung, they work with Apple to build out the company's architecture for the chips. So they don't have to own any of that capex, and they get to work with all these different partners. So this is a model that we want to go out with, especially for the dairy industry, to be able to help enable the massive $700 billion that it is today.
I just think that is so fascinating. And I love that because to me, that says you're just going to be so wildly profitable. And I'm so happy to see money coming from the dairy industry and going to something like TurtleTree Labs. That would be wonderful. Well, I can't wait to see that in action. To me, that's just so very, very exciting. So what kind of hurdles are you facing getting to market, either by yourselves with a fluid glass of milk or with suppliers and partners?
Sure. So I wouldn't call it a hurdle. It is something that the entire industry is working with the regulators to work through. Because at the end of the day, it's all about safety first and acceptance of our products. So really, what we're working with is the Singapore Food Agency, FDA, to be able to get these products to market. So we're helping the regulators walk with them through our process of manufacturing, our development process, and this is one of the big things that the team is working on now.
Yes. So what sort of reaction have you gotten from the FDA?
Well, we are discussing the standards of identity at the moment. But because we're focused on an ingredient play, so it's a lot more straightforward than if we were coming up with a fluid glass of milk at the moment, but it's still under discussions.
Yes, so very fascinating. Keep us posted on that. But you were quick to sort of talk about Singapore. You are based in Singapore, and Singapore's been so kind and supportive to entrepreneurs looking, particularly in the food area, to be 30% of its food supply by 2030. Singapore, as we had said before, has no farms. It's reliant at this point on 90% of its food coming from other countries. Not a great place to be in if you're in a pandemic or other things that are upsetting perhaps your international trade. So Singapore's been very supportive, and also you've had several successful rounds in getting funding. Prince Khalid is a supporter. Green Monday, David Young, how we love him. He's been on the show. He's been a supporter and funder. And then you've been the proud recipient of $1 million award from Temasek, which contributed to undiluting funds, and then then I'd never heard of them before. The entrepreneurial, the Global Entrepreneurial Network, I think it is. I might have that wrong.
You got it.
For what I love, the Entrepreneurial World Cup, and you won the $500,000 prize there again, undiluting your investor base. So you're off to such a great start and such wonderful reception. Are you finding that reception is coming from the tech world or the plant-based food world?
Well, we're just very fortunate. The Entrepreneurship World Cup, it's really across both tech, food, sustainability. So we're just very fortunate to be given that opportunity to present on such a global stage across different sectors. And really these days, it's all about a business for good, because we are really focused on our impact, being mission driven, yet at the same time providing real solutions that can welcome the next billion people coming on the planet. So we're just very lucky to be at the crossroads of a convergence of where biotech is starting to being able to meet the needs of the food industry. Right place, right time for us.
Yes, timing is really wonderful here. Again, I'll sort of ask the question again, but maybe this time in a little bit of a different way. Which sector, if either, has been more supportive? Those interested in feeding the world better nutrition for humans, babies, etc., or those interested in getting animals out of the food supply chain and seeing a complete upheaval of our food supply chain?
Oh my gosh.
I believe China's blaming the US for this whole virus thing.
What?
So I think it would be the latter. A lot of our investors, they're very, very eager to find different ways of feeding the people. So one of our big investors is Prince Khalid, KBW of Saudi Arabia, and he's also invested in Lunalu, in Memphis Meats, and TurtleTree. And he really wants to find different methods using technology to sort of alleviate the food security issues in the Middle East. And they are very similar to that of being in Singapore. So there is a lot of collaborations that we are working on with him for the Middle East and in Asia.
Yes, I'm so happy to hear that. They also import a majority of their food, a lot of live imports of animals. It would be wonderful if that situation were to change. Well, okay, so before I ask you sort of the question of all question, whenever you have technology and food come together, I want to get a clarification about the demand for milk in Asia. Now, most Asian countries, if not all, really don't have milk as part of their tradition. Obviously, all mothers have the tradition of milk with their babies, of course, breastfeeding. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm talking about cooking. You started having an interest in cheese and making cheese, but traditional Asian cuisine doesn't have dairy in it for the most part. So I'm curious what kind of demand you foresee in Asia for, cellular milk.
Sure. So I think some of our early horizons would be focused on infant nutrition. And infant nutrition in Asia is the largest, the fastest growing. Like you said, globally is now 45 billion, is set to grow to 105 billion over the next 5 years. So infant nutrition is really where we're targeting first. And because another interesting thing is because these complex sugars, these bioactive proteins are quite special, and they have a lot of applications beyond infant stuff. They're also known to be good for geriatric care, adult health for gut health. So these are different areas that we are exploring with our partners as well.
I think it's fascinating. Is there any anti-aging component to this?
Anti-aging, not really. But some of the growth factors that we have synthesized in-house have been shown to be good for your skin. So those are like projects that we can explore.
So what about this conceptual hurdle of technology in our food? Are you running into issues there? Perhaps not, because really you are supplying other companies and that is their hurdle perhaps to bear. But do you get any resistance to that?
You want to know why running on the treadmill 7 days a week doesn't work for you when you're trying to lose weight? Because it never.
Yeah, we this is a very common question. We get that a lot. So I think a lot of the conception it's built from the older generation, but for the younger folks, they really care about the environment. They are asking for cruelty-free products. If we look at the popularity of plant-based milk, we know that consumers are really targeted towards that segment at the moment. But plant-based milk is good for replacing fluid milk. But when it comes to making high-value byproducts like cheese, butter, yogurt, you will need the full composition of real milk. And that's where our technology comes in to be able to help to disrupt that market. So it's really up to the young consumers these days. They really want to be able to make a difference in sustainability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're very dedicated to it, and they're not squirmish like their older counterparts. So, again, you have that on your side. You know, this timing issue, that's really wonderful on your side. Well, so you, who's working really on the future today, you're really on the cutting edge. I wonder if you could give me your predictions for where you see this particular industry going in the next 3 to 5 years.
Sure, absolutely. I think it's leading from your previous point. I think oat protein will be more of a commonplace item. Even here in Asia, we have Green Monday, who's also one of our investors. Green Monday just introduced OmniPork, which is a plant-based pork product, to Starbucks, to McDonald's. They also introduced plant-based chicken to KFC in Hong Kong. So we see a lot of impossible meat products, even in Starbucks here in Singapore. So definitely oat protein will be super common over the next 3 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think we could almost make that prediction, I think, for the next 1 to 3 years. I mean, the growth is just happening so exponentially that I think it's fair to say we're past the point of no return. At least that's how I see it. With all the work that you've been doing, and historically you were with Google for a while, I think you were based in San Francisco at some point. Is that right?
I was always based in Singapore, but I do travel to SF a lot. Used to work for Google, Salesforce, so they do have big offices in San Francisco.
Okay, well, with all your experience behind you, I'm wondering what you wish you knew 10 years ago that you know now.
So 10 years ago, I was still in school. I wish that I had more experience. I wish I did more internships. So I would advise every young person to try to take on as many internships as possible, because that's where you will be exposed to corporate structures, about how successful businesses are run, or some not so successful businesses are run, and avoid those mistakes. So definitely more internships and more experience.
Isn't that funny? More experience. Okay, because I think of you as so experienced. I mean, you've come a long way, baby. So there's that. Okay, well, so, if you're having a tough day and things aren't going your way, and, I imagine in science, it's always trial and error, and then sometimes maybe it's more error than trial. Is there a phrase that you say to get yourself back in the game?
Yeah, I would say to myself, how do I accelerate? It might be a bit of a fall here, but how do I find different methods to solve the problem? So my co-founder and I were always discussing, okay, who else can we pull in to help us accelerate? Which resource can we tap onto to help us move faster? So that's our favorite phrase.
Yes, just keep going. Yes, at all cost. I love it. Okay, and then if you're very busy and you're running around and you maybe have a toddler with you that I hear, so maybe you don't have lots of time, is there a snack that you have on the road, something like your go-to that you always eat when you don't have time for lunch?
Oh, yeah, it's really bad though. I like chewies, like Ribena gummy chewies.
Oh, like what are they called again?
Ribena gummies, like berry gummies.
Like gummy bears, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, the cellular agriculture world is working on a gelatin that does not come from animals. So soon you're going to be able to have these gummy bears, which I also like, that isn't going to have any gelatin in them. So thank you to Cellular Agriculture for that as well. It is so exciting to see that. I think I got this right. I originally said that the infant nutrition market is currently 45 billion. Do I have that right? But it's going to 105 billion by 2026. That's what I have in my notes. Is that accurate? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So interesting to see how you and your partner, of course, but you, TurtleTree Labs, is going to move the needle for infant nutrition around the globe. It is so incredibly exciting. So I want all my listeners to wrap their minds around this technology, which, as you said it, taking cells from mothers within 3 hours of expressing the milk, you can then grow those cells in vitro, basically, and to such a large extent that pretty rapidly you can have a large nutritious milk source, if I've got that right. So just don't be afraid, people. Just wrap your mind around it. It's coming. It is the future, and it is going to be so much better for people, the planet, and animals. Fengru Lin, I want to thank you for being with me and spending your time here. I do love Singapore. I've been so many times myself, and just love it there. So thank you for all that you do, and I hope that you'll come back.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. This was fun.
Oh, good. I'm so
glad. When you do come over, give me a shout out. I'll show you around. Happy to host you at our lab. Oh,
I'm taking you up on that. I'm all about it. I want to learn so much more about the science. So I will take you up on that. I'm going to say goodbye to everyone watching us now, but Fengru, don't go away. I'm just going to say goodbye to everybody else. I will see you all next week on the Plant-Based Business Hour. And Fengru, just sit tight.